Hey everybody, thanks for joining me on this new time slot for the Ocmodcast. I got my Saturday morning cartoons on. I'm watching old episodes of Dragon's Lair. We are on episode 11 of the Ocmodcast, so thanks for everybody for supporting me and supporting the channel. We have a lot to talk about today. There's a lot of speculation about the release of the Steam Frame VR headset, and so we're going to be discussing that. And we're going to cover all the angles of a new diskless gaming world and what that means for you. And of course, we have a basket full of honey roasted gaming news. So uh, we're going to jump right into that. So let's start off with some Sony stuff. So PlayStation needs to follow the Steam model to succeed. Here's how. This is not so much of a press release, so much as it is an editorial. Digital shift and backlash. Part of the stuff that we're going to be talking about later in the podcast is um, the trend is that everyone is going diskless. Steam's been diskless for years. Sony has announced that they're going diskless. Xbox has been saying it too, and people are actually arguing with me about this, that about the terms of what diskless means and what Microsoft is saying about their disk trade-in program. And we're going to talk about that. But in this article here, Sony plans to end physical discs as digital sales now account for 85% of game revenue, um, sparking widespread fan criticism. Steam-inspired movements, better use experience. So PlayStation is officially killing off physical discs. This isn't new. We've talked about this for several weeks. Gamers aren't happy. The company's social media accounts can't post anything without being slammed with negative comments, and even websites and influencers who are usually fans of PlayStation are taking them to task. Sony says the digital now accounts for the vast majority of PlayStation game sales. That's just how it is everywhere. 85%. Steam has been a rousing success on the PC for many years, though Valve doesn't offer physical games. It provides users with plenty of incentives to remain satisfied with their digital purchases with the platform overall. And in some of the comments, people were talking about this. Part of this is how the company its customers, and if they treat them as a customer and not a product. We're going to talk about that angle, and that is related to Meta versus Valve. And the article that I did that has a lot of comments about it, a lot of it is about the ecosystem and how the company treats you, and if they treat you like a customer. Here are 5 practical, realistic adaptations Sony can make to make PSN more player friendly. So read that article. I'm going to have all the news articles in this podcast in the OC Mod Shop website. I'm going to paste that after this podcast is done. So anything that I talk about is going to be on the OC Mod Shop website in the news section. You just go here and there's a podcast section. And in here, like here's the one for last week. And well, I need to paste the articles for that. But all of the articles are going to be, or all the news articles that I mentioned in the podcast are going to be on the OC Mod Shop website. So you can read this for yourself. If anything, I just glance over because there's a lot of news to cover. You can just go read the stuff yourself at the OC Mod Shop website when I'm done. So stronger household family sharing. So this is one thing that we can talk about too, because the Steam's family sharing, they don't cover everything. And someone also pointed out you can't play the same game at the same time. And I have an article coming out probably next week about how on Xbox, that's one of the saving graces for Xbox, is you can set it up so that you can play the same game at the same time with 2 people. And I'll talk about that. But with Steam, you can't do that. You have to buy 2 licenses. Yeah, on Steam, up to 6 family members can share a unified game library, but you can't play the same game at the same time. You have to have multiple licenses. Um, PlayStation has sharing features, but they're limited. Better discovery tools, clearer long-term library guarantees, and library management. That's, stuff does go offline in Steam all the time. Well, not all the time, but it does happen. Like one clear example is Unreal. That is no longer listed on the Steam store, but if you purchased it before, you can still access it. But that's with the news that Sony ripped away like 500 or so videos from people last week. People are up in arms thinking that can happen to games, and it does happen. I mean, like, when you have a subscription, it's like when stuff goes offline, that's just how it is. Kind of like with Netflix, you can't complain that, it's no longer available from Netflix because you just are tapping into what they have online. Same thing with Game Pass. It's a subscription. So when something goes off Game Pass, you can't say that you owned it. But if you bought it, you should expect that it's around forever. But that's the thing about forever is the store will go offline at some point. There will be like the Xbox 3. Well, that's a bad example. Xbox 360. There's backwards compatibility there, but not every title is supported. Like Rock Band doesn't. There's only Rock Band 4 works on the modern Xboxes, but all the previous ones, Guitar Hero, stuff like that, they absolutely do not work. They're not supported. So the only way to play them is with a physical disc. Or excuse me, is the way to play them is on those original consoles. You could have a digital copy of them, but anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So go read this article if you want to read this editorial about some advice to Sony about basically making some goodwill with gamers like Valve has curated. Only 7 PlayStation games have ever sold 100,000 physical copies in the US this year, according to an analyst. The market trend is that US consumers are spending, the spending on physical games dropped from $11 billion to $1.6 billion in like a 15-year time span. Signaling a shift towards digital formats. I mean, this shouldn't be news to anyone. This is just the way things are going. I mean, take the example of, streaming. It's like it used to be video enthusiasts with Blu-rays and DVDs, and there's the argument to be had about owning your disc versus streaming it. But everyone's doing streaming now. Nobody does physical disc anymore because you have to go find the disc, put it in. You can't automatically go to the next. Well, you can't binge an entire series on DVD without getting up and switching discs. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that I can talk about, and I'll have another article about that. But there's some real advantages to having a digital library. But the trend is people can't be bothered with physical discs anymore, even though you own it. But according to the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, they legally, according to the law, you might own the disc, but you don't own the content on the discs. So while nobody's going to be coming into your house and taking your discs away because the license expired, there's things that they can enforce, like you might own the disc, but that doesn't mean that you can broadcast it on the internet or broadcast it even to a room of people. The legal stuff is written so that you can't. So there would be a sticky situation if you put in a DVD, if you owned a bar and broadcast it to a room of 200 people, they would have an issue with that. That was technically copyright violation. And that's the thing with the DMCA is it's not piracy, it's a copyright infringement, technically. So, but anyway, again, I'm getting ahead of myself. PlayStation fans continue to demand physical game discs from the company, and Sony announced that they'd stop making them in 2028. So that's just the way that things are going. You can read more about this article after the podcast. PlayStation may as well eliminate the hardware if Sony's ending discs, according to Disgaea. The Disgaea series creator says Sony's decision to kill discs for the new PlayStation games from 2028 is saying the company may as well go all the way and eliminate all hardware too. And that's was one thing that we were kind of speculating that Xbox was doing when they were announcing their everything's an Xbox. You know, and maybe if they didn't get pushback, Microsoft tests the waters a little bit and they go ahead with stuff. And when they get consumer backlash, they seem to pull back. Remember the Xbox One? They said it's going to be always internet connected, and people backlashed. And so Microsoft pulled that back. But that's still the trend of where things are going. Guess what? All consoles are now internet only. And this has kind of paved the way for all these digital things. Like, and I'll talk about this in a minute, but with the disc trade-in program, when you insert a disc or when you tie that disc to your account, that disc is going to phone home. It's always going to be on the internet. It's like, it's going to check if you have a license to that when you tie that disc to your account. But that's the trend, that way things are going. Microsoft tests the waters and they pull back if there's consumer backlash, but they end up doing it anyway. That's just the way that things are going. But that's just my opinion, my response to when they say, well, might as well go ahead and all the way and kill all hardware too. Well, Microsoft was kind of teasing that possibility with everything's an Xbox. You know, basically play on a PC. We'll have an Xbox app. You know, the Xbox brand won't go away, but they kind of want to get out of the hardware business because they're subsidizing. And I'll talk about that too, where it seems like the shift is companies are going to stop subsidizing hardware because it costs them money. Because one of the reasons of one of the arguments about the Steam Frame versus Meta Quest is that Meta subsidizes the cost of the hardware so that it's cheaper. And so people, that's one of the factors. I'm not going to buy a Steam Frame because it's $1,000, or so people are expecting. Pricing hasn't been announced yet, but people are saying, if it's $1,000, why would I do that when I could get a Quest 3 for whatever? Well, they're subsidizing. And we're going to delve into that, but that's a thing. It's my prediction, the way that things are going, that companies are going to stop subsidizing hardware, and that's consoles, VR headsets, everything. So you can read that article. Someone's opinion was like, basically, Sony, if you're going to stop physical discs, then don't even bother, according to one person's opinion. It's official. Your PS5 physical games have an expiration date. And this isn't talking about the people taking it away. This is another aspect on physical media that we're going to talk about, which is physical discs will die. Even cartridges from many years ago, from the 80s, they oxidize. Or the metal oxidizes. They're going to die. The batteries for your game saves will die. Physical discs have game rot. Pressed discs seem to last longer, but they're going to die eventually. And I remember when Blu-ray recordables were coming out, they were saying, oh, this has a 100-year archival shelf life. Well, they must have lied to us, because even Sony is saying Blu-ray discs are going to last 10, 20 years. Erasable discs lasting 20 to 50. CDR discs with gold layers can reach 100 years. I do have some CDR discs that I pressed in the late 90s, and they're still readable. And I also have some that have disc rot, where they're not readable. You can actually see spots on the disc. But pressed discs should last a lot longer. But that's the thing. On CDs, they had a lacquer layer on top. It was basically plastic, and then the recording layer, metal, it's either pressed or it's a layer of dye, and then a reflective layer, and then lacquer on top. And if that lacquer gets scratched or starts separating, then you've lost your disc. But with Blu-ray, DVDs, I think, and Blu-rays, they sandwich more plastic on top of that. so that it's not just exposed lacquer. So CD discs technically probably won't last as long because there's only lacquer separating the data from air, but Blu-rays and DVDs have more protection. So that's what this article is about, is your physical disks will die at some point, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. And that goes back into user rights. Can I make a backup copy? It's, but with the copy protection on, you might be able to do a backup copy of a Blu-ray movie, but a game is going to be a little bit harder. And so that gets into the whole thing of, is it copyright infringement or piracy to make a backup copy of a physical game? But you can read that. PlayStation 5 just may stop working in 10 years. Yeah, so that's what that article is about. So that's just an aspect people may not be considering too. So one reason, I even had an article on OC Mod Shop. I talked about this last week about I converted or I bought a bunch of physical games on Steam. Let's look at it here. Discs, Steam. Game disc replaced by Steam. So you can go check that out too. Basically, I was talking about, and this is that I had a bunch of PC game discs that weren't playable anymore, either because they were scratched up or the operating system or the game wanted a particular operating system that didn't exist anymore. Like at the time, I think I had Vista, but games wanted to be run on Windows 95, and no amount of coaxing would work. And so that's one good thing about Steam and even digital games is you can play a game from 30 years ago that should not work on a modern operating system, but it works either through DOSBox or some compatibility or whatever, but they figure that stuff out. So there's some advantages to digital. But it's just the license. You can back that stuff up all day long. Just copy your Steam library to a external hard drive. But you still have the license. It's still going to check if you own it. Let's see. Moving on to Xbox. So one thing is, let me open up Steam. Well, we'll talk about this in a minute, but the thing that I wanted to show you was Halo Campaign Evolved dropped. Well, it's going to drop next week, but if you pre-purchased it, then if you pre-purchased it, then you can access it now. And so I have some gameplay footage. It's actually some up on the OC Mod Shop Clips channel, but I'm going to show off some gameplay footage. Let's see. So Microsoft is bringing original Xbox exclusive to the PC, starting with 4 classic games. And these are the games that basically there's only a handful of original Xbox games that are backwards compatible that you can get right now. And those are basically the ones that Microsoft had rights to. Or ones that Microsoft created and published. So So the games that are available now on PC: Blinks the Time Sweeper, Conquer Live and Reloaded, Crimson Skies, High Road to Revenge, and Fusion Frenzy. I think the one, of these, the people might actually be interested is Conquer Live and Reloaded. So the PC features and requirements are much higher than they were on the original Xbox. The original Xbox was like a custom Pentium 3 and a custom NVIDIA chip. And I forget what the equivalent was today, but I think the original Xbox ran on 64 megabytes of RAM total. That was shared with the GPU and the CPU. And that's one of the reasons that it took so long to get an Xbox emulator running. It was the closest thing to PC hardware than any other consoles, but it was harder to emulate because of unified memory. Now that's common, with APUs. The CPU and GPU sharing the same memory, but Xbox had 64 megabytes of unified memory. And here are the specs for running these same games on a modern PC. 8 gigabytes of RAM. Intel Core i3. You can go look this up. An Intel GTX 1070, just to run a game from 2001. So Xbox aims to preserve classic games for modern audiences, and that's great. I have a hacked Xbox that has a lot of stuff, and you can do this stuff on with emulation to preserve your games. But there's a huge library of Xbox games, 700 more plus of games that are worth playing again. But Microsoft only basically have rights to like 4 or 5 of them, and so that's really great. Good for Microsoft. They're releasing things, reliving them, giving them some new life. Great. I approve. Analysts see weak first-year sales for Xbox Project Helix. So we weren't sure if there was going to be another Xbox when Microsoft scared us by saying everything's an Xbox. That whole campaign. Hold on a second, let me get some water here. But with the console prices, hardware is more expensive. PlayStation is more expensive. Xbox raised their price 3 times, 2 times in the past year, I believe. So now an Xbox Series X is like $750 or $800, and they've completely done away with higher storage ones. You can't even buy a 2 terabyte version anymore because it would be too cost prohibitive, I think. Regardless of, that's my speculation, but regardless, they're not offering a 2 terabyte model anymore, and the 1 terabyte Xbox Series X is $800. Analysts are saying the console would cost $600 to $1,000, and so RAM's going to be more expensive. And as I talked about earlier this week, Microsoft is the main cause of RAM costing more money because of all of the AI data centers. Microsoft is going all in on AI. The next version of Windows expected to be basically a Copilot OS. They're going all in on AI data centers, raising the price of RAM, and then complaining that consoles cost so much. And because things are costing so much, even though Microsoft makes billions and billions and billions of dollars, they're likely not going to subsidize the cost of hardware anymore. So the next console is expected to be around $1,000, which will narrow its appeal to enthusiasts. So gaming may be a niche thing for people with deep pockets. So right now, people in general only buy one console of that generation. And I think that's going to be even worse when the prices go up. So sales may reach 7.3 million by 2030, but Xbox's hardware future remains unclear amid layoffs and the shift to digital. And that's the thing. Layoffs, and I did a video about this. It was a comedy video, but basically up is good. Layoffs, while bad, stockholders see that differently. Stock goes up, value goes up when there's layoffs. And I already talked to death about this, about the Xbox layoffs and why it had to happen. There are several facets to it. One of the facets is the price of the hardware and people not selling it. But there's already a user base. And Xbox, because Xbox can publish games for more than just Xboxes. They publish games for the Sony's PlayStation. They publish games on PC and Xbox. So Xbox is into selling games, not selling hardware. So if they're having to lay off people, it's because they're not selling games, not because they're not selling hardware. So that argument doesn't really hold if the price of RAM is the reason for the layoffs. It's more largely because they acquired a bunch of studios and there were too many layers of management, basically. That's the big part. There's many facets to it, but that's a big part of it. Why the forecast matters for Microsoft's gaming future. Low projections come as Xbox faces declining console sales. There's more articles about people going to PC, and Linux, not even Windows. And Valve is making it's now. Someone was actually asking me, it's like, you sound like a Linux user. What? He's like, while I'm using Windows, I do have more Linux devices than anything else. And I would say most people do. If you have an Apple phone or a tablet or Android or a Roku device or basically anything that isn't a desktop PC running Windows, you're running Linux. And Linux gaming is now very viable, and people may not really. All these retro handhelds running Linux in some flavor. So, and with Valve's Steam Frame, it's running on an ARM chip, a Snapdragon 8, and it's running steamOS and Proton. So that means Proton's running on ARM now. And if that's the case, x86 based PCs for gaming their life is limited. I know I'm segueing off a lot. I'm sorry, guys. I hope you're getting a lot of value out of this. Some Xbox studio leads reportedly detest Game Pass. So why did Xbox push ahead with it? Money. So that's part of the thing with Game Pass is it's a way to get people to subscribe instead of buying games. And there is a value proposition to be had for Game Pass. And they keep changing the rules. I wish I had a soundboard of Darth Vader and Lando Calrissian saying, it's like, pray that I don't alter the deal any further. This deal keeps getting worse all the time. Game Pass used to be $20, then it was $30. People pushed back. Now it's $23. And they said that Microsoft said that when they acquired Activision, they would not hold Call of Duty hostage. Well, Call of Duty is not going to be on Game Pass as they promise, at least at first. They're forcing you to buy it. And so that's part of the reason that developers don't like Game Pass. Well, let's read this article, but that's what I think it's going to talk about, is they're leaving money on the table. Game Pass, once hailed as the best value in gaming, is now causing revenue declines and disrupting traditional sales, especially for franchises like Call of Duty. And so they've already said they're not going to make Call of Duty available day one. If you want the new Call of Duty available day one, you pay full price for it at the price they want you to pay for it. And that's exactly why exactly why physical discs matter. Because if you're locked into an ecosystem, if you can only buy it, the last Call of Duty, or one of the recent Call of Duties was 300 gigabytes. There's a correction for that. I'll talk about that in a minute. But it's still a huge game to download. And it's not feasible to put them on discs. And people are arguing with me that you can put them on multiple discs, blah, blah, blah. And that's true. But it's still faster to install a game over the internet than it is to install a game from a disc, averaging about 20 megabytes a second. It would take like 2 hours. I'm not kidding. Do the math. To install a game from Blu-ray, if it were 150 or 300 gigabytes, it would take 2 hours to install. But you have to install it. You can't run from disk. Even if it is on disk, no one plays directly from the disk anymore. Anyway, Microsoft's forcing you to, but without physical media, you have to buy it from their store. And they're locking you into that ecosystem. And that's part of the thing in consumers' rights. So Microsoft may shift to a customizable or a la carte Game Pass, offering premium titles separately as the current model faces financial and operational pressures. Well, I think there are already different flavors of Game Pass. Like right now, if you have Game Pass Ultimate, then you have access to hundreds of games. But if you have the cheapest one, basically you get online play and like access to 50 titles. But, so I don't know what they mean there. Inspired by Netflix and Spotify. Yeah, people are streaming. People are doing subscriptions rather than owning stuff. And So people bought into this model. They accepted it. This was more convenient for them. And now they're saying the thing that they opted into, the thing that they enabled, well, you get what you pay for. We want instant access to everything. Well, you do. And you don't have rights. Legally, as I was saying earlier, you never did have rights according to the law. You had a license to the game, but you had a physical disc. But as people say, as the saying goes, possession is 9/10 of the law. So yeah, Microsoft's huge cuts this past month. So I'm already 30 minutes in, and I'm not getting to the meat of this podcast. So we'll get to it in just a second. Game Pass just made one of the 2026 best reviewed games totally free. I'm just going to skip through this. All of this news is going to be on OC Mod Shop after this podcast. Xbox loses an engineering VP 2 months after an appointment. Jared Palmer departed Xbox. He went to another company, AI firm, Cognition. Starfield's Bethesda's odd game out without a full 2.0 overhaul. As I was telling you, when they let people go, a lot of projects at Bethesda were gutted. Like half of it is gone. People were arguing with me. I actually know some people at Bethesda, or that used to be at Bethesda. And so when I tell you Starfield's done, Starfield's done. And people are arguing with me about it. That it's like, oh, well, they already have planned DLC. Yeah, they had planned DLC. They might have some stuff going, but Starfield's done. Don't argue with me about it. Microsoft confirms Xbox Live outage affecting game access and online features. So here's another aspect of when you have a digital-only library. They have to phone home every time you want to play a game. So one way to share to play two games at the same time is to have one Xbox console set up as your home console, but you have to log into the other one. And it's happened where if there's an outage, I can't log in, I can't play the game. So if you have a digital-only library, you can't play it. So even if you tie a physical disc to your account and there's an outage, you can't play it. So I'm not sure, because a game wants you to install anyway. When you insert the disk, I don't know how it would work if there's a outage affecting, if they need to check your access, how that works. But that's still an aspect. That's a facet of these digital games is there's an outage. It's like sometimes, whether they intend to or not, you have less control. They may rip it away from you, or there may be an outage. It may be some things beyond their control. Or there might be some hackers that, remember what happened with Sony several years ago? Some hackers took the service down. So if someone else has access to your stuff or says what you can and can't play, that can be taken away from you for various reasons. Let's see. Now we're going on to Valve. Steam users have until July 23rd to claim the 2021 RPG completely free of charge. Free game, The Life and Suffering of Sir Bronte. So it's free until January 23rd, so go claim that. The Open Puck project allows Steam controller to emulate console controls, among other uses. So the Steam controller is basically a keyboard and mouse, basically. And so it works with Steam input. It works with Steam beautifully. It works on a PC just great. But a lot of consoles, they don't support keyboard and mouse, like they do their own controllers. So there's this Open Puck project that basically translates the controller to work with an Xbox or PlayStation or even a Switch. So go check that out if you want to do that. I mean, but your mileage is going to vary. Some of the advantages of a Steam controller, like the touchpads, they work great for PC games that require a mouse to navigate. Not sure how well they do on on another controller. But if you could do things like one thing that a lot of controllers don't have that the Steam controller does is a touch capacitive top joystick, top of the joystick. So one good use of that is to press that to toggle gyro mode. So that would be something interesting to do on a console. Valve defends cost price Steam Machine amid soaring memory costs. Valve says selling the Steam Machine at cost keep it viable for other manufacturers supporting an open PC ecosystem. That's the thing. If Valve subsidized the cost of so people are talking about the cost of the Steam Machine, it costs too much. But if Valve subsidized it, then Valve would have a financial reason to keep you on their system, to keep you on their ecosystem. Right now, with the Steam Machine, you can install anything you want on it. It's a PC. Just like with any PC, you can do anything you want with it. Xbox, PlayStation, they don't allow you to just install anything on it. And that's part of the thing. People were arguing with me about Valve being open, or when talking about their new headset, the Steam Frame. But it's a PC. You can install anything on it. It's open. You can't. Meta does not allow you to install anything you want on their headset. It's open. Meta is closed because you can't install anything you want on it. Even though they allow you to connect to a PC and play PC games, that doesn't mean it's open. So if the Steam Machine were cheaper, if Valve stepped in, even though people are saying Valve has, it's real great for Gabe to set the price from his yacht, but it's bigger than that. If they had a financial interest in and subsidize the cost of the Steam Machine, then they would basically have to, because they have to answer their stockholders, their shareholders. Well, they're a private company. Scratch, I said that. They have to answer to someone about the cost, and they would have a financial reason to make it a closed system. They want to keep it open. So they're looking out for your rights as a consumer. I hate to say it, but the cost of the Steam Machine, unfortunately, is to protect your rights as a consumer. But maybe I'm wrong about that. I probably am. There's lots of people who have a differing opinion about that. No exclusive titles. Valve refuses to lock games to the Steam Machine, calling the PC catalog its launch exclusive. And I actually said that to someone. It's like, oh, there's no games launching with the Steam Frame. It's like, well, yeah, because that would lock you into their ecosystem. The thousands of titles on Steam is its incentive that you can play game like with the Steam Deck. They weren't competing. Valve wasn't competing with the Switch. They just were bringing something to Steam users that wanted their games on the go. They didn't have to compete with Nintendo. They didn't have any. Valve doesn't have any exclusives. People are speculating that Half-Life 3 or HLX will be coming and launching along with it. But if they did, then that would help promote that. It wouldn't be exclusive to the Steam Frame or the Steam Machine or any of the hardware, because you could play it on any PC. It would just be another piece of news, but they wouldn't make it exclusive. They can't make it exclusive to those things. There's no way to enforce that. If it's on Steam, you can play it on any PC or anything that uses Steam. I was playing with a AYN Thor the other day, and using Game Native, we were playing Steam games on it. So you can play Steam games on anything. So they can't make things exclusive. The people are thinking that HLX is going to be announced with the Steam Frame, but it's not going to be exclusive to the Steam Frame. They can't enforce that. Even a Quest, if a Quest can connect to a PC and play Steam games. So there goes that. But the point is, Valve can't subsidize hardware, and so they're defending the high prices that cost. It's the industry. It's that memory costs so much. I'm not going to subsidize it. Pal World briefly tops Counter-Strike 2 on Steam in terms of sales or playability. Valve revamps Steam VR dashboard as Steam Frame launch nears. We're going to talk about that. That's the topic of this podcast. Is when's the Steam Frame going to launch? I'll talk about that, and signs point to very soon. Soon, trademark. I'm thinking Monday, and I'll tell you why in a minute. I hacked FSR4 onto my Steam Deck before Valve could ship it officially. So yeah, there's lots of things you can do with the Steam Deck. I can do some tricks using Decky to make games think it's running on NVIDIA, and so I can enable DLSS. So yeah, there's some things you can do to make it think that it's got FSR4 on it. Honestly, one of the best frame generation and upscaling plugins is with lossless scaling, and I've talked about that before, and it works on anything. I did an article where you can use lossless scaling to upscale your videos to high frame rate. So go check that out on the YouTube channel. So yeah, so you can use Decky plugins to extract a lot more performance out of your game. Let's just see what he did. Manual hack. AMD's FSR4 is designed for RDNA 4 hardware, but the Steam Deck uses RDNA 2. And that's the same thing with the 7000. Basically, RDNA 3 hardware, like the 7000 series. So even though AMD came out with drivers, there's still some kinks to work out. I haven't been able to get FSR4 working on my 7900 XTX, even with the new drivers and patches to games and stuff like that. So they're still working on it. But people are saying that FSR4 works on the Steam machine. So, but with the Steam Deck, go check this out. Steam and Epic reveal new wave of free games for July. Steam users can play 6 titles for free, including Icarus, Killing Floor 3, Metal Gear Solid Master Collection. Epic is offering 4 tales until July 30th, followed by OTXO and Sol Kesto? Hope I'm pronouncing that right. From July 30th to August 6th. And some things that are always free is Yet Another Zombie Defense HD. And DLC for The Mound, Omen of Cthulhu, that just came out. I downloaded that, and I've been meaning to record that and put it up to give you guys a peek into that. So Windows handhelds have the hardware to beat the Steam Deck, but SteamOS already won the software war. Talked about it before, and that was the thesis of my article about the VR war of the Steam frame versus Oculus. And my opening statement was, it's not about the specs. And people are arguing with me that the specs are better, and when the Quest 4 comes out, they're done. It's like, well, the Quest 4, the earliest it's going to come out is holiday next year. So there's like a 16-month head start. But anyway, the reason that even though there's better hardware, the Steam Deck is one of the best handhelds ever because of SteamOS. So I would say if you wanted a more powerful handheld, go buy a more powerful handheld and install SteamOS on it. And there's probably support for it. So that's the reason that it is, because it treats everything like a console, not like a PC. And that's the thing with the AYN Thor, when I was playing with it yesterday, is you can get games to run, but it was like playing games on a PC. It was a bear to get running, and it's not a console-like experience. I've done lots of projects where I tried to get Windows to be very appliance-like when doing an arcade cabinet, and even with my best efforts, it was a house of cards, and it could fall, and did fall down. But anyway, go read that article about basically edifying. It's SteamOS, that's the magic. It's not the hardware. And that's a repeat. SteamOS finally let me make my own living room console, and the Steam Machine stopped making sense. So, and that's the thing. People are doing that. That was one of the things about the Steam Machine. People were balking at the price. I'm going to make my own Steam Machine, screw valve, but no one has. Excuse me, not screw valve. Screw the Steam Machine, but they're not saying screw valve because steamOS is awesome. So make your own Steam Machine out of a PC. There are some niceties that you're not going to get out of your own PC, even a pre-built Steam hardware like the Steam Roller that someone did. It is a custom PC, but you can't do things like CEC features where you turn on your controller and it turns on your TV, and you can adjust the volume from your controller and things like that. Although there's one possibility I want to test out. There's a CEC USB device that you basically use. It sits between your computer and your TV. It plugs into USB and your HDMI cable. And I'm going to try and see if I can get that to work. And if that works, then maybe there's some possibility of getting your own Steam Machine to do that extra little thing that an appliance like the Steam Machine does that a PC can't do. So, but yeah, you can make your own Steam Machine, but there's the spousal acceptance factor. It is never going to be as quiet as a Steam Machine. I've seen several reviewers talk about the Steam Machine. Even running full bore, it's whisper quiet. So, Steam drops a brand new Japanese RPG you can download and keep forever. And what is it called? It is... Where is it? You can grab a brand new one on Steam. What is it? HoloLive Dreams. All right. Other tech news. Lenovo unveils a first laptop with an inkjet printed OLED display. Microsoft Power Toys quietly added a dock. And now my entire app workflow is one keystroke away. LG monitors are installing adware. And I have an LG ultra widescreen monitor, and its front screen its main screen is like a smart TV. It wants you to use apps and stuff like that. And a lot of smart TVs are spying on you. They phone home. So if you want to connect it to the internet, so they want you to use apps as an incentive to connect it to the internet. But what they're not telling you is when they connect it to the internet, it's spying on you. It's taking screenshots and sending it to the company and to advertisers to sell things to you and gather trends and feed AI. And there's nothing you can do about it. All these smart devices. So, and to sell ads to you. We talked about this the other day. The RTX 3080 was supposed to be old by now, but it's now back at its original price, and it's actually a pretty good value. It has more RAM, I think. Oh, wait a second, let me make sure that that's correct. I think that was the 3060. The 3080 was supposed to be old by now, but the RTX 60 delay handed it 2 more years. The RTX 3080 delivered a massive generational uplift over the RTX 2080 at $699. So, check that out. Your PC's memory controller doesn't care about matching kits. Here, what actually matters when mixing RAM. That's interesting. I will probably do an article about that. But if I had to speculate, it's not looking for identical modules, but the weakest or the slowest RAM is going to make the faster RAM go down to those things. And so my advice is going to be, sure, try and match RAM. It's not going to matter as much as you think in terms of, you might see something on a synthetic benchmark, but in terms of gaming, if you saw a 1 frame per second difference, I'd be surprised. But what does matter is single channel versus dual channel. That definitely makes a difference in performance. But in terms of mixing and matching RAM, if it works and it's not pushing the hardware so that if you're not overclocking your RAM, your memory controller is going to go down to the slowest stick and make the others go down to the weakest link in the chain. So mix and match RAM all you want. It's not going to kill you unless you just have bad RAM and it causes crashes. That's hard. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. Ubisoft sets an August 6th Ghost Recon reveal amid major leaks. So we'll see. Ghost Recon. People are saying that's going to be out on August 6th for the franchise's 25th anniversary. PC hardware makers keep giving away free performance through BIOS, and most builders never claim it. So let's see what this is about. I know that because I had some DDR5 RAM, and I had to go into those BIOS and change some settings to get the most out of it because it was running at, I think it's 5,200 megatransfers a second. That's what the RAM was rated at, and I was running at 4,800 and had to go into a BIOS and change some settings. Yep. Resizable bar, X3D Turbo Mode 2. So that's the thing that I did to get that rated performance out of my DDR5 is to enable resizable bar. So do that. It'll give you a 5 to 15% better performance without new hardware. And that's part of the thing about OC mod shop. OC stand for overclocking. Back in the day, in the early 2000s, people wanted the most out of their hardware, and so they wanted to push the hardware. So not only was it about tricks or whatever, it was overclocking your hardware and about choosing. We did a lot of testing so that you could choose the right chips that allowed for overclocking. Because back then they locked down the processor, so you couldn't just do that. So your mileage varied, and so there were lots of things you could do to force overclocking, and that's where you went into the BIOS. And basically, to coax a processor to overclock, you basically had to overvolt it. And so that's where more cooling was important. So, but I digress. So yeah, there's some things you can do on the BIOS to get some more performance. So go read that article. All these articles are going to be out on OC Mod Shop after this podcast is done. So there is I want to issue a correction. So last podcast, I said that Call of Duty, or one of the shorts I did, last podcast, let me find my notes here. I'm running a teleprompter. That I said that Call of Duty was 300 gigabytes. And if you actually go to Steam, oh crap, sorry about that. I'm using multiple desktops, and so it switched the other days. Steam's on my third desktop. If you actually go to Steam, Call of Duty says 300 gigabytes. And it's actually 150.7 gigabytes. But that it can be up to 300 gigabytes if you get all the DLC and all the things included for it. So one comment someone said is, just to clarify, my guy, Call of Duty was never close to 300 gigabytes. So it was an error that was mistakenly printed the entire launcher library that had BO6, MW2, MW3, and Warzone all on it. All on its own is about 100 gigabytes with everything installed, being multiplayer, zombies, and the campaign. So there's a correction there. It's about 150 gigabytes, not 300. But my point is, and so one of the things is, because there was another comment that someone said that the Call of Duty example is a one-off. And I listed off 10 games that were 180 gigabytes or more, just rattled them off the top of my head. So that argument doesn't hold in terms, because the whole point of what I was trying to make is games are too big to feasibly fit on discs. I'm not making a point of, oh, we're going to be digital only and this is why you should love it. It's that's one facet of the reason that they're ending physical disc support is it doesn't make sense. People aren't buying them. They cost too much to print. You have to do too much on them. But of course, people could say, well, you need to optimize your games. Why is a game 300 gigabytes? What was one of the games? I have it in the thing. There's just 10 games that, like one of them with all the DLC is 500 gigabytes. So it's not uncommon for games to be over 100 gigabytes, which gets into the area of if you were to have them on disk, it would be too much to deal with, and it would take several hours to install from disk. Matter of fact, it would be I think with Rock Band 4 one time, it's not a big game, but it was faster to download it than it was to install from disk. So Halo Campaign Evolved came out. And here's some gameplay from that. So this is me starting it. So when you first log in,
logging in, enter key continue button list.
Yeah, this voice tells you, so I skipped over this part, but you have to link your Microsoft account to Steam because I was playing this from Steam. And it was a pain and a half because the game was full screen. It wanted you to use a QR code to log into your Microsoft account. And it was a pain and a half. It was seriously 10 to 15 minutes linking this up just so I could play the game. And this is part of the stuff that will happen when the things are digital only games. You have to link to storefronts. If you're running on PC, you have to have multiple storefronts open or multiple things talking. But anyway, I digress. That was an aspect of having to log in for these games. There's a lot of FMV scenes, but this is running 1440p ultra widescreen, and I was getting 180 frames out of it. But that was, I was using frame generation, but naturally I was getting about 90 frames a second easily. I'm just going to skip onto the world here.
Look, packed.
This is where it's really pretty.
Wow, that's
the game.
Really pretty.
You said it,
And
Alan.
I'm getting 180 frames a second. That's at 1440 ultra widescreen.
Is there an echo in here?
Everything on ultra. Of course, I'm doing frame generation, but that means I'm doing double of 170. So.
But the gameplay is very faithful to the original. I did run into some glitches, so I think you'll see it here, where it just dumps me out, and I die. We'll see it here in just a second. It's going to dump me out and kill me, and that happens several times. Come on, come on, come on. Yeah, right here.
Hey, what the?
Exactly. Well, it didn't kill me there, but it's like it dumped me in a spot that was so high up that if I jump down, it kills me. But the game is really pretty. And it's like 75 gigabytes to install. There's the Warthog. The controls haven't really been changed from the original Xbox. It's basically you use the right stick to point the direction you're going to go and use the left stick to accelerate forward. That was one of the ways to play Halo, and it was really innovative at the time. A way to play a first-person. One of the reasons that Halo was so innovative was, at the time, first-person shooters were keyboard and mouse only, and Halo was one of the first games. Well, there were some games on the GameCube, like 007, basically but with Halo, playing a first-person shooter from a controller was usable and made sense, and people could just pick it up and play. And so the same dynamics are, still there in this remastered version, and it's fun to play. I'm playing it. I don't play a lot of PC games start to finish, and this is fun. So I dig it. So before I get into the physical distance, because I'm going to be long in the tooth about it, I'm going to, let me get my stuff queued up here. I'm going to talk about the comments on we're going to talk about the VR war, which let's see, am I on the right screen? The article I did about, so I did 2 articles. Basically, the reason Steam Frame will clobber Meta, and basically the Steam Frame is coming. Here's what to expect, and this is more on what it's expected to cost, when it's going to drop, things like that, based on all the stuff that we know. And basically, if you look at the hardware, or when Steam hardware has dropped, it's been on a Monday, right after a press embargo, and right after we noticed shipments from shipments arriving in warehouses. So the Steam controller was announced on a Monday. The Steam machine was announced on a Monday. Guess what's coming up? It's Saturday. Guess what's coming up? Monday. And we've already noticed the same signs. Steam Frame is up on Steam right now. It's on the store, or excuse me, announced. And there's stuff in the warehouses. So that's what that's about. But so let's talk about the comments. Where are those? Oh, so let's just compare the specs. My whole point about the article is that the Steam Frame clobbering Meta is not about the specs, because people can argue that all day long. And people are saying about, this is like comparing a Ferrari to a compact car. It's a completely different beast. But let's look at the specifications. The Steam Frame offers higher RAM, 16 gigabytes versus Quest 8. A PC VR streaming capabilities, while the Meta Quest 3 provides full color pass-through, which allows for AR, augmented reality. A mature standalone library, and a proven consumer-ready experience. And that's what I was talking about. That's what I was talking about with steamOS, making things usable and accessible. It's the ecosystem. The card hardware. Both headsets are using ARM-based Snapdragon chips, but the Steam Frame uses a newer, faster Snapdragon 8. Let me make this a little bigger so you can read. Steam Frame has 16 gigabytes of DDR5, Quest versus Quest 8. It's lighter. The Quest 3 offers 2064 by 2208 per eye, while the Steam Frame has 2160 by 2160 per eye. People are saying that, that for the cost, which hasn't been announced yet, that the Steam Frame should be OLED and these are going to be LCD, and people are poo-pooing that. Refresh rate, 72 hertz to 120 hertz. And from my experience, Steam Frame allowing 144 hertz. So from my experience, let me tell you, to reduce motion sickness, you want a higher refresh rate. So more is better, but generally, people really can't tell the difference between 120 and 144. Some people do, people are going to argue with me, but in general, no. 120 is good enough in terms of reducing the motion sickness that you would get from a lower refresh rate. Pass-through, the Quest 3 provides full color pass-through with depth sensing for mixed reality experiences. Steam Frame currently offers only monochrome pass-through. So that's one of the things people are saying is like, these specs are old. Why are we releasing a new headset? That's not light years above. And people are saying, oh, well, when the Quest 4 comes out, it's going to completely kill Steam, that's the thing. And that's the other part of my article is the Steam Frame is not out to kill the Quest. It's just another way to play. And if you want a premium experience that's tied to that's easy to use, then people are going to dig it. The Quest 3 runs Horizon OS, a closed ecosystem. Steam Frame runs the steamOS, an open Linux-based platform, and you can install anything you want on it. It's a PC. Steam Frame has a 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi 7 dedicated link for low latency VR streaming. The Quest 3 can handle PC VR, but relies on general wireless solutions. So your mileage will vary. So people are saying Oh, I run Quest all the time, and I don't have any problems. And you probably also have a modern, fast wireless network. That's not competing with other things in your house. The point is, your mileage will vary based on a lot of other factors. This is a dedicated Wi-Fi, dedicated only to the Steam frame. That's my point. People are saying, well, it doesn't happen to me. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. So anyway, Steam Frame includes Gen 4 PCIe port for cameras and other peripherals. And the Quest 3 uses standard Meta controllers, and the Steam Frame supports knuckle-style straps and optional top straps. And the Quest 3 is available for about $500 to $600. So that's the specs on that. I didn't really want to get into the specs. But if you're talking about it, it's like people, you can say, well, this feature doesn't matter to me, so therefore the Steam Frame costing $1,000 is stupid. But it gives you a lot of stuff. It has more memory, more storage, a dedicated link, and some technology to get the most out of that streaming, like foveated streaming. But that's that. Now let me go to some of the comments. Let me just make sure I'm not missing over anything. Yeah, the argument about it being open. People were criticizing me for calling this a war, but I'm just observing what is already here. If this isn't a war, then why is there so many comments about it? People have a lot to say, and people have written paragraphs about this. Let's look at this. I disagree. Meta will lose because Meta gave up. First of all, how Valve's solution is not a closed system. They control the hardware and the software. At least the critical bits. Second, streaming still has multiple issues. I've already said it. It's like it's open because you can install anything on it. They're not subsidizing it so that they can keep it open. If Valve subsidized it, then they'd have to keep you on that platform. They'd have to sell only their games to you. Let's see. After the first batch of frames are gone, it will be an endangered species for VR headsets. After that, first production will run into price will be higher. So the question is, did Valve artificially increase the price of the frame to reflect future costs so they don't have to increase pricing? Or do they sell the frame cheaper on launch and increase the price in the future? Good point. Like with the Steam Machine, they wanted to have it cheaper. They didn't want to increase the price of the Steam Deck. Steam Deck, one of the things, because people were talking about that this is dead on arrival, and people are saying that the Steam Machine was dead on arrival, but it sold out. And people are arguing with me, and they have good points about that there's limited hardware, and that's one of the things I point out too is the fear of missing out, that because one of the reasons that it could be sold out is because it's limited hardware. I have to get one. It's the competition. If I don't get one, then I won't get one. Somebody else will get it. So couldn't be a truth to that about why it sold out. But my point is, it's sold out. Sold out is the opposite of dead on arrival. I mean, you can argue different points, but it's still sold out. And there's 7 tons of Steam machines that are sold out, according to the warehouse reports that we had. It doesn't seem like you specifically exactly what you mean by clobber, but I'm going to proceed with dominate market share. And people are saying, oh, well, see, here we go, like 3 or 4 paragraphs. Clobber could mean winning the hearts of the consumers. Some people, there's a lot of comments of people saying, I won't choose Meta just because it's Meta and because they spy on me and stuff like that. Valve is making this headset not to make you a product to gather your information and sell to people, but they want to sell you game. They want you to play games. Meta makes games to make you a product and get your data and sell it to people. And so by clobber, it could be that it's a better headset. It could be that it clobbers in terms of sales. That does seem unlikely. They're probably not going to outsell the Quest just because it's going to be cheaper. And generally, a cheaper product does dominate. And as I predicted, companies aren't going to be subsidizing hardware anymore. And so I think the next Quest isn't going to be the price difference you think it's going to be, because I don't think they're going to subsidize the price of the Quest 4. But in terms of sales, the Steam Frame probably will not outsell the Quest, because the Quest is going to be cheaper. Like, take the console wars, for example. Someone said it's like, you're declaring war. And it's like, I'm not declaring war. It's like the cola wars. He said, it's not a war, it's a competition. And so I said, so should the cola wars have been called the cola competition? Should the console wars be called the console competition? But anyway, in the console wars, the one that has dominated has been the cheaper option. Even though the Wii was technically inferior in terms of specs to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox. What was it competing at? The Wii was Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. That's right. But the Wii dominated because it was cheaper. And what outsold even the Wii were DSs. If you consider a DS a console, it outsold them all because it was the cheapest option. So there is something to be said about that. In terms of clobber, will it dominate in sales? Probably not. But while it's out, it's people are going to be buying it, and it's going to be sold out. Dislikes disabled by owner. No, that's not me. That is YouTube. YouTube took away the thumbs down button on some things. You can still use it on TV if you're watching YouTube on TV and on shorts and stuff like that. But I had absolutely nothing. If you're not seeing the thumbs down button, that is not me. I wish I had that ability. It's just too expensive without higher res. Same as the recent box, dead on arrival. People are saying it's dead on arrival. Dead on arrival would mean they didn't sell, that they're still stock and they didn't sell their first wave. We'll see. Maybe you're right. Maybe it will be dead on arrival. This ad brought to you by Valve. Some people have accused me of filleting Valve. And I am not on Valve's payroll. As I mentioned, I used to work down the street from them. They were neighbors to me when I was doing OC Mod Shop early on, and I could not get even a tour from them. They don't give me anything. The reason that I'm passionate about Valve is because they're one of the few companies that have integrity, that look out for for integrity. People would differ on that if you're a publisher, but in terms of looking out for the gamers and doing what's right and not taking backroom deals just to make more money and screw the consumer, I see them as having high integrity, and I support Valve because they put out good product. Some people are even thinking of Valve as a monopoly. But Valve got to be the dominant PC marketplace because people liked what they offered. It's their product. You can get PC games from several different places, but people go to Valve to buy them. So people go to Valve to buy them because they offer a good product and look out for the consumer. So I do not get anything from Valve from promoting their hardware. I had to buy a Steam controller. Valve has not sent me anything. I had to buy a Steam controller off market, and it cost a lot more. I've reserved a Steam machine, but I'm paying full price for it. They're not giving me anything. So And I do not, while I've, I think I've met some of the people at Valve at press events and stuff, but I'm not like good friends with anyone that's over there, and they won't even let me in the door. So, unfortunately, Valve fans have been blinded by their bias. Don't get me wrong, Valve has earned the good faith, trust their fans give them. However, the reality is undeniable. Steam Frame is barely marginally better than the Quest 3 for most specs. For most specs, that's the thing, is what matters to you. It really sucks for them because they had good intentions, but the price hikes have totally spoiled their plans. Dude, Valve is cool. And all you know that Meta has Steam Link. Yeah, I know. I'm aware. But your mileage will vary based on what your personal network is like, as I've mentioned. Lol, the index sold 500K in 6 years. It's like marketing is different now. Yes, but using the index as a reason why this isn't going to work is like you could also point to that the Steam machine, the original Steam machine from 10, 15 years ago, as a reason as to it's apples and oranges. The Steam machine is sold out and is a hot product. But the old Steam machine, people could say it was dead on arrival and it was a failure. So yes, using the index as a reason why the Steam Frame is not going to sell is not. It's a different era. It's a different time. But you make a good point. People are trying to. Some people are trying to be gatekeeper. For a lot of these comments, some people are trying to be gatekeepers. Like one said, "I'm not a real VR gamer." And VR gaming isn't my, my thing of expertise, but I'm a hardware journalist, a gaming journalist, and I've been one for 25 years. That's the thing about it. You don't have to be an expert in a subject to be able to report on it and talk about it and know what questions to ask. People are saying that, or one commenter was saying, I'm not a real VR gamer. And so it's saying that I have no business even commenting on it. Yeah, typical non-VR gaming, trying hard to fit in. And that is why I say, I hope you're having fun, because I'm not a gatekeeper. Whatever makes you happy. People playing a Switch or a Game Boy aren't seen as real gamers, something that gamer girls have had to fight for years, because you're not into the same thing as the person who's gatekeeping. If you have a big dick you want to swing around, or if you have to prove that you're better than someone else because you have better hardware or you're not running the same thing as them, that's just bully behavior. If you're gatekeeping, then you're not interested in more people joining your hobby. You just want to put others down. So if you love something, wouldn't you want more people joining your hobby and doing the same thing that you want? Don't be a gatekeeper. Listen to Will Wheaton. Don't be a dick. Play whatever works for you. A new VR headset means that there's more ways to play, so everyone can join in on the fun. And it's fun to have these debates, but nobody should be divided about this. We should all agree that VR games are fun, so let's play. And so that's why I say, I hope you're having fun. I mean it. I really welcome all of these comments and questions, but I do have to do some refereeing. Don't attack people personally. Don't comment on their, sexual orientation, their appearance, things like that. Stick to debate the topic, not the person. So there have been a few comments that I've deleted, and I'm committed to free press and you expressing your opinion and all that sort of thing. But And there are certain things that cross the line. If you're going to curse, I'm going to delete it. If you're going to attack someone, I'm going to delete it. Sorry. But other than that, I really support people having a discussion. I'm super psyched that people are having a discussion about this. So that's the thing. You can read through these comments too. But that's the gist of it. There's some amount of gatekeeping. Hold on a second. Let's look at the comments on the second one. I remember when Microsoft first introduced the HoloLens VR, and they had consumers all hyped. Steam is a gaming company that is consumer first. Microsoft isn't. I agree. The specs are crap. Nah, there's literally no alternative at its expected price. Isn't the MetaQuest better and cheaper? It's cheaper, not better. Hope it goes for 1K max. Yeah, me too. Standalone VR headsets are designed to be anti-consumer and anti-human. Here's why. Ergonomics, vendor lock-in, expandability, heat. Wow, this is a really well thought out, organized thing. Go read this. I'm not going to click on them. You can click on them. I don't want to expose anyone that doesn't want to be exposed. But some of the things I do look at is like if someone's like one person was calling me a armchair warrior, and they have no channel, they have no news outlet, they don't have anything. So I responded that it's like I agree. People who don't put themselves out there that criticize other are hypocritical. So he was being a hypocrite. He was saying that I was an armchair warrior. I didn't have any. I've been a gaming journalist for decades. And he was calling me an armchair warrior when he had no audience or voice. Oh my God, bro. Anti-human. Yeah, bro. What's next? Giving dry eye guys a run for his money. So, dry eyes guy. So I'm assuming Ben Stein. Is that what he's saying? Is he saying that I look like Ben Stein? Okay. I'll take it. I admire Ben Stein. So I didn't get a response from him. That's the thing. Sometimes when I respond to people, I want to have a conversation and no one responds to me. Unfortunately, there was zero new news in this video, which was a bit disappointing. Well, some people get something out of it, some people don't. This wasn't me chasing the hype. This was me providing information. This is something that people wanted to know about, so I provided it. There are an awful lot of people that dug it. This one video, 300 hours worth of people watching it. The other video is like 800 hours of people watching it. This is some of my highest rated content. The channel's growing. So there's no new information on this. Well, then people must love to read the same thing over and over. But in all my responses, I try not to be mean or snarky or say nuh-uh or you're wrong. If anything, I'll try and if I have some information that is contrary to your point, I'll present that information. I'm not going to say nuh-uh, you're wrong, because like any scientist, as soon as I'm presented with more information, if I'm wrong, I will admit it, and I'll change my viewpoint based on new information. I think everyone should be like that, so everyone be open to it too. I kind of need new YouTubers to reflect on PC VR prices. Usually, isn't that smart? Usually are, if not subsidized. Meta's prices would be double if they weren't subsidized. Possible. So there's just a lot of comments on here. So some people are being gatekeepers. Some people are providing some good information, contributing to the conversation. And there's a lot of debate about this. And so it's good. And I'm hoping, so VR gaming is a niche type thing. Even so, people who are really passionate about VR gaming, there's it's still a small niche of PC gaming, and with more headsets, more people are going to be playing, and it may not be niche at some point. I don't really know any other person in my life that has a VR headset. Most people don't. So here's hoping that it becomes more mainstream. And people can debate about this all the time. It's like and resist and argue about this new VR headset, but it's a new VR headset in the marketplace. It can only be good. Even if it is crap, that means that there's people are going to one up it. There's going to be another thing. People want it. We want more VR games in the world, and that's what this is providing. And it's another way to play. This is a good thing for people who want to play VR games. This can only be good. It can only bring more VR headsets into the world. And so that's what I got to say about that. So, someone was saying that I was just another hype chaser. Well, someone's going to be chasing the hype. And might I add, you, sir, clicked on it. So, articles that happened this week. The reason that the Steam frame is going to clobber Meta. The Xbox disc to digital, what they're not telling you. Steam frame launch is imminent. I'm expecting it's going to happen on Monday. And the real reason behind Xbox's collapse. And this is basically about Microsoft raising the cost, Xbox's cost raising, and one facet of all the layoffs is because of RAM prices. And Microsoft raised the RAM prices from their AI data centers that they're building. That's the gist of that. The thing about the Xbox disc to digital is Sony said they're ending physical disc support, and Xbox said, oh, we'll let you trade in your disc. It's like, look at how great we are. We'll let you trade in your disc. Well, here's the thing. There's a unique identifier on those discs. So once you tie that disc to your account, it's useless. You can't give it to someone else. And people saying, oh, yeah, tying it to your account and giving it to someone else, that's piracy. Yes, I agree. That's not the use case. The use case I was talking about is you no longer have the freedom to sell it or give it to someone. How you would share a game before is if you were done with it, instead of selling it, you could let your friend borrow it. You could let your friend play it for the weekend or whatever. But if you tie that disc to your account, you no longer can do that. You can't sell it to GameStop. You can't sell it or give it to someone else. It's physically tied to your account. That's what I'm talking about. You don't have the freedom. But the whole thing, the thing that should, regardless of the nuance and the edge cases, the thing that should terrify everyone is the fact that if you put in a disc, it has to phone home to see if you can play that. That is a terrifying prospect. And that is one of the things about ending physical media. Lack of freedom, lack of choice. Big Brother watching you what games you play. That's what that's all about. They're tying discs to your account when they weren't able to do that before. They said, oh, well, this only applies to Xbox One and above. We're not going to do this for original Xbox or Xbox 360 games. And I haven't looked into this. I don't know this for certain. But when you press discs, it's hard to put unique identifiers on them. So when you make a mass, it's hard to identify that particular disc. And so that's what I think is that with original Xbox and Xbox 360s games, they can't uniquely identify that. It's not that they are saying, oh, well, we don't care about this and we'll give you the freedom for these games. It's that they can't screw you. I'm sure they would if they could. But that's what that's about. Articles next week. I have an article about enabling stereoscopic 3D on your Steam Deck using AR glasses. I have a pair of Rokids. There's how to troubleshoot the Steam E602L3 error that keeps happening. I ran into that when I was doing an article about leveling up my Steam level. Transforming standard video to smooth high frame rate without having to use SVP, Smooth Video Project. Just using your graphics card, and it works instantly. I got my hands on a AYN Thor, and so that review's coming. So those are the things that are coming up next week. So now let's take a look. Well, before I do that, let's look at another game that was kind of interesting that dropped. It's called Shift at Midnight. And that, if it's not up on the OC Mod Shop website, it will be in a minute. But the video playthrough is published on the OC Mod Shop Clips channel. So it's interesting. It's a retro style horror slash game where you're running a store and have to run the store and stock things or whatever. But there are these zombies or these doppelgangers, and you have to identify if they're doppelgangers or not. And if you let them buy stuff, then they attack you. Or, you know, there's going to be attack waves if you let people through. And so you have to identify if these people are doppelgangers or not. And as you progress through the games, you have to do more things like clean up blood and, you know, fill people's gas and stuff like that, and barricade, you know, do a tower defense or a base defense type thing. So yeah, here's the thing where someone called me and said, hey, come down the road, help me out. And it was actually a zombie. So I have to run back to the store. When people give you your ID, you have to look for inconsistencies and see if they're a zombie or not. And yeah, and I killed her, so because she was a zombie. So I'll show you. So she's a mechanic, and she says she's a flight attendant. So she's a zombie or doppelganger. So I want to shoot her in just a second. So there's a gun underneath the counter. So if I sell stuff to her, then she reports back to the entity, and then the entity comes and tries to kill me, and I have to do tower defense. Oh shit! Well, I didn't get her. Well, normally they turn into kibble, but I think so she got away. But anyway, it's an interesting little game. The generator goes out sometimes. There's the entity that you have to defend from. It's an interesting little game. I'm playing through it, so that was fun. So retroware. Where is that? So one of the cases that I reviewed way back when is an Antec P190 case. Let's see, can you guys see that? Let me make it bigger. And this was a big beast of a case. No, okay. So I had a front panel and, you know, drive bays, which we don't have anymore. Look at all those beautiful buttons and some cooling. This is a big, huge case, and it has. Your eyes are not deceiving you. There are 2 power supplies in there, and so this was meant to run multiple graphics cards, and it's got holes here for liquid cooling. Or wires, or something you want to put through, but you know they were big enough that you could put tubes for liquid cooling in there. But if you had multiple video cards, like you could run quad SLI, I think, or you know, but you could need 2 power supplies. So it would be an interesting little trick on getting both to run at the same time, because when you press the power button, it turns everything on. There's probably and it had some integrated fan buses in here. This is a big beast of a case. Huge case. Forget what that was for. Oh, I think it was a ring pull to pull the drive bays out. Well machined, thumb screws, drive cages with rails. Yeah, so Diet Pepsi there for size. So that was a big beefy case with support for lots of power supplies. And here is an Asus motherboard. I talked about this had triple channel memory, and I showed off triple channel memory one time. So here's the motherboard, and so it's got 3 banks, and you had to do a triple channel memory. You had to install them in 3s. So you have look at all those PCI slots. This was an Intel motherboard. And I think I have the processor in here, but I think I had an i7 920 in here, but I think the pictures in here have an i5. But triple channel RAM on that, heat sinks. You know, look at that. Awesome I/O. Ooh, a SpeedIF out. Digital audio out. Look at that. There's the triple channel. You basically had to put the RAM in the same color slots, you know, either all blue or all black there. The networking chips and other the MOSFETs, the power regulation or power conditioning capacitors for the processor. There's the slot for Intel. Oh, yeah, this was meant for triple video cards. And so this was the thing that you could put 3 NVIDIA SLI cards in SLI mode. And this was an adapter, so you could put all 3 in the same time. So 3-way SLI, that's what was the need for the dual power supplies. So, and there's the Diablo RAM that I put in triple channel memory. So this was, you could run dual channel, I think. Well, I can't remember if it was triple channel or nothing. You know, you could do single channel, but I don't know. It probably did do support dual channel, but I can't remember. But anyway, that was a thing. Triple channel RAM was a thing. So thank you guys for joining me. Oh, that's Honey Roasted Gaming News. So for those who don't remember, Honey Roasted Gaming News, they used to, back in the day, there were some review sites, and one of ones I was a fan of was Voodoo Extreme. And there was a character on there that was just really funny as hell, Billy Wicked Wilson. And he dubbed the term Honey Roasted Gaming News. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who are influenced by him even still today. And unfortunately, he did pass away. He had some issues, and he passed away. I think he passed away. And I want to carry that. Like, he inspired me, and that's one of the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing today. That was one reason I signed on for OC Mod Shop. I didn't start it, didn't found it, but I came on and I bought it and I carried it on. And so Honey Roasted Gaming News. That's I want to continue that legacy and try to be funny where I can. But I'm a journalist. But I also want to be funny. The comedy skit that I did went over like a lead balloon, but I think that that's more of the, the YouTube finding the right audience, because there are people that do this type of stuff, comment on stuff in a funny way. Like there's one guy called Sam Time, and I like his stuff, and that's what I was trying to emulate. I'm doing my own stuff. I'm not trying to copy anyone, but I had my own take on it and wanted to do a comedy video, and hopefully it'll take off. And if so, I'll do more of that. I try some stuff, and if you guys respond to it, then I do more of it. And so when people are saying, it's like, hey, you're jumping on the VR bandwagon, well, I listen to what you guys want, and so I'm giving you what you want. So if you want me to not cover something, then don't watch it, and I won't do it ever again. So but anyway, I still try to put some humor in there. Anyway, that's it for this really long episode of the Ocmodcast on Saturdays. Thank you for watching, and that's it for me. We will see you next time for episode 12. Probably be Saturday, because that's what I think most of you guys are on, according to YouTube. So that's it. thanks for episode 12. Thanks for joining me for this discussion. And add more to the comments. I'm still here. I'll be talking to you guys later. And as always, I hope you're having fun. And I really mean that. Next time.